The Behind Ears podcast crew would like to thank the following sponsors for their generous support. If you have a little one and you're going to Walt Disney World, you're going to need a stroller. I'll tell you what, kingdomstrollers.com is the place where you want to look into. I'll tell you, I've destroyed my fair share of strollers while at Walt Disney World, and those things are not cheap. But getting something from kingdomstrollers.com, they'll be able to help you pick out the perfect stroller for you. And the nice part is that because they're a Disney preferred provider, they'll be able to drop it off and pick it up right from your Disney resort at no extra charge. So if you don't want to necessarily destroy your stroller in the process and you want to have a great Disney vacation with your little one, contact kingdomstrollers.com and they'll set you right up. That's kingdomstrollers.com.
A new coffee for Expedition Roasters, Curator and Curator. This tag says drink me for a Wonderland coffee crumb cake experience. Oh my, I feel so exhilarated. And look at all of these other handcrafted themed coffees and teas they have. It's like falling down a rabbit hole into the most wonderful coffee and tea party. Now you better hurry, you don't want to be late. So head over to expeditionroasters.com to brew a little magic at your home. Behind the Ears podcast listeners, be sure to use code EARS20 for 20% off your next purchase with us. Brew your happy place.
Coming to you live from our studios on the East Coast and in the Midwest, it's the Behind the Ears podcast, because everybody does Disney differently.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Ears Podcast. I'm Uncle Danny. This is Mr. Chris. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you're an avid watcher or listener, we appreciate you coming back. We go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Facebook and or YouTube. And you can always catch all our podcasts anywhere that podcasts are caught, like Chris Like Chris said, we'll go with that one. That mentioned was what I was going for. You can follow us on all our social media platforms. With that being said, it's time to start the show. Chris, face a little red tonight. You feeling all right?
Yeah, it's warm in my studio here for some stupid reason. Between that and for the past hour, I have been stressed out whether or not my machine was going to actually be back up and running. Because a little over an hour ago, I came up to my machine and there was a big blue screen. It says updating Windows, 21% done. And I'm like, oh, dear God, no. And of course, all the Mac users in the world are going, hey, should I use Mac? But I was just like, ugh. But then all of a sudden, I noticed that you were having camera issues. So, seriously, if this is not a Curse Tuesday, I don't know what is.
Well, maybe we can make it better with a little conversation tonight. And tonight we have Alan from MousePlanet to talk about the NBA experience, which, as you all know, took over Disney Quest, and the good, the bad, the ugly, because we've seen a little bit of everything when it comes to that. So your friend, your guest. So why don't you go ahead and introduce him?
Cool. Everybody to the lower part of me, so down there, kind of play the Brady Bunch type of thing. We have Alan Delinka from MousePlanet.com. And Alan, thanks for joining us, first of all. Thanks for coming back second time on the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
I really wanted to have Alan on, everybody, because he was able to be there for the grand opening yesterday. And I was telling Alan before the show, I was being very honest. I've said before, and I'll say it again, the NBA experience is probably not necessarily, it's not necessarily something that I'm going to partake in. Okay. I am not a basketball fan, but I'm very curious to see what Disney has done here. I know they completely leveled the spot that Disney Quest was in. So this is a whole new building. And I kind of wanted to have an idea, because while it may not be something for me, there may be basketball fans out there that would really find this to be a plus in their Disney Springs type of day. So that is why I brought Alan on. And also Alan is also a Chicagoan, a really cool guy. And what can I say? We love talking with you, Alan. So first off,
hold on. I want to start with the first question. It's very important that I start with this first question.
Okay.
Alan, are you a traveler? Do you happen to ever leave the Chicago area and maybe head to the Northeast?
Well, 5 years ago, I moved to Orlando, so
okay.
I'm not in Chicago anymore. But yeah,
okay.
I've traveled domestically quite extensively. I've been to every state east of the Mississippi except Vermont.
Okay, so you visited the New York and New Jersey then?
Oh, absolutely. My father comes from New York, and I've been many times.
Oh, perfect then. So can you settle a little something between me and Chris here?
I think you did this the last time I was on, but we'll see.
I'm gonna do it every time. Anytime Chris brings somebody on, it is. Can you just tell us that New York style pizza is better than Chicago deep style pizza?
No, you're not going to get that out of me. I'm sorry.
I'm going to get it eventually, one of you days.
In fact, I had a friend in town here the other day, and we went to Giordano's, even though it's a Florida Giordano's, because Chicago-style pizza is certainly better than Florida-style pizza. That's a very easy one.
Alan, what do you know? You like Florida food. What do you know? No, I'm just kidding. No, please, Chris. Please take back over. Please put the train back on the rails.
But I was going to say, you certainly win that New York pizza is far superior to Florida pizza.
Well, I mean,
that's
a lot of things are far superior.
I don't even know where to go with this. I mean, and, because I'll be honest, we already get criticized that we talk too much about food and food stuffs. But yes, this is definitely one of those topics we argue about all the time. All in love. So with that being said, Alan, why don't you? There's probably some people that caught the dedication ceremony on Monday over at the Disney Parks blog.
because they had it streaming live, and there was obviously a lot of hoopla going on about this, and I did catch it myself, and I thought it was a good stream as well. And I guess my take on it is, why don't you just tell us a little bit about the dedication ceremony at first? Because I know you got to go in and see some of the other stuff, all the stuff that's being offered as well. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the experience of Monday?
Sure. If folks are familiar with where Disney Quest was, wow, I'm just gone, aren't I?
I just noticed that.
If folks are familiar with where Disney Quest used to be, the footprint of the NBA experience, including the new restaurant, the city. I knew I was going to forget it. I should have written it down. The new restaurant that isn't going to open until this winter. It has the same footprint along that walkway across from the House of Blues that we used to see with Disney Quest. And so it's a very small, tight area. And then if you add in the overall Disney Springs overlay that came to the west side 3-4 years ago, there's a big piece of abandoned elevated track right in front of the building. So it's a very small physical area. So the only people who were at the ceremony were those on stage, invited NBA folks, invited NBA media, invited Disney media, so like NBA type media, Sports Illustrated was there, invited local media, our local TV stations were there, the social media folks like us were there. And then there were some kids, because the NBA Junior League is having an event at ESPN right now. They had a ton of kids from there who were there. But other than that, it was as you may have seen, because I got a quick interview from Fox 35 here in Orlando that's up on my Facebook page, because the poor reporter from Fox 35 couldn't find another member of the media pool who'd had a chance to see it even before. I mean, I had a chance to see a cast family and friends preview a few weeks ago. So I'd already been inside and I got to talk about it with him as well. But it was a very small invited crowd. That's sort of the gist of it.
And I saw that it was rather kind of interesting. I mean, I know they brought in a lot of basketball personalities, and of course the only one I recognized was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which, I mean, that's kind of more of, from my day, I should say, of enjoying basketball, because you and I were joking before the show. I pretty much stopped watching basketball after Jordan retired, like even the first time or even the second time. But that was the last time I actually really enjoyed basketball myself. And let me go ahead and quantify. It's not that I don't enjoy basketball. It just doesn't, that's not just one of those things. I mean, Jordan was a legend around here in Chi-Town, and you kind of had to, if you know what I mean. But that was actually cool. Of course, I saw comments in the Disney Parks blog feed. It was, people were joking around, "Hey, I know that guy from Airplane."
And I thought the same thing when Kareem took the stage. I mean, I remember his basketball days. There were only two more players that they brought out that I recognized. There was Dwayne Wade, and there was Grant Hill, who was on Detroit during those great Bulls years. And so that's what brought him to mind when they brought him out. But you're right. I mean, I also stopped regularly watching the NBA with the '98 championship that the Bulls won. And the following season, I remember trying to watch, and we saw what came of that team, and that was pretty much the end of my NBA days.
Yeah, I can handle that. So now you've not been to Disney Quest in Orlando, but you were at Disney Quest in Chicago. So you kind of had.
I've been to both. I was here in Orlando as well as in Chicago.
I said corrected. Okay, so we're going to just hold on to that thought for a moment, as as if you could describe what are some of the offerings they have in the new building for people to do for their admission fee.
So the building is about 44,000 square feet now, and I don't know what Disney Quest was. And it starts with an entry hall that the first time I walked through it reminded me of most modern stadiums, where you're walking under the seating bowl, under the concrete seating bowl. Now, the interesting thing is, after you walk under the concrete seating bowl and turn around, there is no seats, right? There's no, in fact, I don't think, and it may have just been for the media event and the previews, there isn't a place to sit down anywhere except in the video rooms, because it's all active activities. There were no benches or chairs or anything in the facility. But you walk in, and then you're standing at center court. And if folks go to MousePlanet's Instagram or Facebook today, I posted a video that includes an interview I did with Nick Anderson, formerly of the Orlando Magic, and as a former Chicagoan himself, who played for the Illini back in the days I was at Northwestern. And in that video, I've included some video footage of that center court, which is very reminiscent of any NBA center court, with the lighting effects going and a giant scoreboard above it that's showing video clips. And the room is surrounded with a very high-tech band like you see in all the modern arenas these days, flashing scores of the games, flashing scores of the WNBA, because the building salutes both the NBA and the WNBA.
That's cool.
And then around the first floor, and a big flight of stairs that's more than one story, because they've made the floors tall enough to play a game of basketball in the areas that you're supposed to be able to throw a basketball to basketball height. You walk up a very large flight of stairs, and there's another ring at the upper level. And on the lower level were, I would say, about a third of the experiences. There are 13 experiences total. Maybe a little bit more than a third of the experiences are downstairs, and then the rest of the experiences are upstairs. And the different experiences range from things that came off as silly in the description and personally came off as silly in the execution. There's a photo opportunity where you can take a photo with a life-size mannequin of the what's the word I'm looking for? The commissioner of the NBA. And now, having seen the commissioner of the NBA in person, because he was there for the dedication, it's not a bad likeness. It looks a lot like him, but it's pretty weird to have the likeness of this guy. The point is that you get to pretend like you've been drafted by one of the teams, go through the draft moment, and then have your picture taken with the commissioner. Yes, exactly. So there's photo ops. You can pose. I've also included on our Instagram, on MousePlanet's Instagram today, me hoisting the championship trophy. There's just a 5-second video of me with confetti. It's a Disney Photo Pass opportunity inside the space. You can also raise the MVP trophy. Those are all experiences that are for anybody, right? Anybody who wants to have a photo, you go do that. Then there's the more physical activities. The one that I've included in the video we posted today is called the Combine. And the Combine includes an opportunity to see what your wingspan is. And here's where, and they had a Disney Imagineer, exactly. They had a Disney Imagineer who was talking us through it, and I decided to use her as my model rather than me as the model. So she does the whole demonstration on my video. And what's kind of neat about the experience that we don't go into on the video is the technology that goes into the experience itself. They're using infrared cameras to monitor, to measure your wingspan. You do a reach. They tell you how high up you're reaching. Then you're supposed to do a vertical jump while you're reaching, and you see how many inches you've added to your reach. Then they compare you to an NBA or WNBA player. And I guess I've left out a critical component for the personalization. After you enter, because we didn't do this yesterday, it's not as fresh in my mind, but after you enter, you go to a kiosk, and with the RFID card that you've been given as your ticket, you activate that with some personalized information. You choose your favorite basketball team from the NBA or the WNBA. You choose, you input whether you want to follow as a beginner, an intermediate, an expert, and some of the challenges that you do around the room vary depending on what level you've selected. You put in, I believe it asked for your gender because, like I said, it was comparing you to a WNBA or NBA player. So you put in some very basic information, and then at each experience, you tap in with the RFID card, just like we do with Fast Passes and just like we do going into any of the parks here.
Or like if you're trying to personalize something like your test track experience, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you use the same RFID card over at the Photo Pass, and I don't think they made clear. I don't believe Photo Pass is included. I think that's still extra. So if you have an annual pass, you can tap your annual pass and get the photos that way. I'm not sure that it's tied in with the admission media for the experience, although that's definitely something to ask about. But you basically, as in the combine, you go through all these things, and it's using infrared cameras to measure you. The ball return is very neat because it's basically like the pitching machine you see at a batting cage. The basketball, after you've thrown it into the net, goes into the bucket, and it spits it back out at you, and that sort of thing. And it shows you the arc, the trajectory of your free throws, so you can try to alter that as you're trying to improve your game. And for people who are interested in playing basketball or improving their basketball skills, there is a lot to do there. There's a upstairs, I'm sort of rambling already, I can tell, but upstairs there's a dribbling opportunity. And when I did that during the cast member preview, I did very badly at it. I was able to control the ball, but I wasn't able to control the ball in the way that their sensors were looking for. So,
it's like you did it, but it rates you as middle schooler.
Oh yeah, or worse. When did you graduate kindergarten? No. The activities for folks who are NBA fans and don't want to get as physical include a trivia challenge where they have a bunch of touch screens and a host who asks. They were fairly easy trivia questions for somebody who'd followed the game, but you probably need to be current, right? So the questions that dealt with the Bulls in the 90s, I was pretty good on, and the Bulls opponents from the 90s, the Knicks, Detroit, the Lakers, Utah, that sort of thing. The questions that were asked about modern players and so forth, I wasn't so good on. The questions about I'm sorry. The other thing that's sort of interactive for the fan is they have a room that's made up to look like a locker room,
Cool.
but just the dressing area, right? So it's all the materials that you'd see, the collectibles, like a jersey and the shoes and the various things that various players would use. And then interspersed with those, and I've got video of it, and Nick Anderson talked about it in the video actually because it was his favorite part, are these touch screens where you can select your favorite team and your favorite player on that team and see what their stats were. And if they're current players, you'd see what their current stats are, as well as you could see their career stats. And there's a whole lot of neat graphics that go along with it. And it's quite detailed and quite extensive for the fan who really wants to dig into various players and their stats.
I think that sounds kind of cool for an NBA fan.
Yeah, it literally sounds like like a spitting image of the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. I mean, on a bigger scale, because this building seems much larger than what Toronto has. But I mean, Toronto, you can be a goalie, they shoot foam pucks at you. They've got the Montreal Canadiens locker room. Like, they've got it all set. And it sounds like they just basically just took what existed for another, major sporting genre and just moved it to Orlando to the basketball. All right, so I'm gonna throw an oddball at you here. Do you think that Disney did themselves a disservice? And maybe it's because maybe the money wasn't right, maybe someone else wanted more money compared to the NBA, or whatever the case is. But do you think it's a disservice to Disney to have put the NBA there instead of pushing for the NFL?
Well, I mean, that goes to where's the NFL's licensing rights sit, right?
Yeah.
Chris knows that for almost 20 years I was an intellectual property litigator, so I understand this probably way deeper than the average theme park fan might. But Chris and I talked a bit before the show that the NBA is clearly very, very important to Disney. Bob Iger came in person to this. So did Bob Chapek, and Chapek didn't even get on stage. So you got the head of the Parks division and the head of the company there in person with the NBA commissioner. And the NBA on ESPN is so important to that relationship that's pretty much the first thing Bob Iger talks about if you watch the dedication ceremony that aired on the Disney Parks blog site the other day. So, I mean, does it do a disservice? That's like saying that any attraction that doesn't appeal to absolutely every guest who walks through the door is a disservice. There is an audience for the NBA experience. It clearly isn't every guest who visits Walt Disney World. Is it enough guests to make a financial stake for the resort? I don't know. I mean, I don't know who the financial sources are going to be who are going to buy tickets, since it's not included in any of the annual pass tiers that we have right now.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay the admission fee to go there? One category that's clear to me, and some of the Disney people talked about that I hadn't thought about, are all those kids that come to do the youth athletic programs at the ESPN Wide World of Sports. But then I think your follow-up question as an avid theme park studier would be, why didn't they build the NBA experience over at the ESPN complex as opposed to at Disney Springs?
I didn't think about that. That's actually a very interesting question.
I mean, or even as an adjunct to All-Star Sports, because there is enough land in various parts of the resort to have built it elsewhere. I also know, before we get on to the next subject, that the businesses on the west side of Disney Springs just wanted something at this point, right? Because Disney Quest closed 2 years ago. Cirque du Soleil closed New Year's a whole year ago. And that end of the western end of the west side is really struggling for foot traffic. Sure. And I don't know. I mean, House of Blues certainly draws a lot of people to the concert venue and to the restaurant, but I don't know that the House of Blues audience is the same as the audience who's going to be going to the NBA experience. But I do have a sense that Splitsville customers may be interested in the NBA experience, and they are almost neighbors in that part of Disney Springs.
And I think that brings up the idea of how you had said, possibly why didn't they put it over at ESPN? I just think the sole amount of foot traffic that because you physically are taking people out of Disney and bringing them there, where the average Disney goer, even as a family, will at one point or another make their way down to downtown Disney.
Well, yeah, and Disney Springs exists for just that reason, and that's why it's also the transportation hub for if you want to go resort to resort without going in a Uber or a minivan or any of the other options that are available point to point. You have to take the Disney bus to a theme park or to Disney Springs and change and take the other resort bus you want. And also, ESPN Wide World of Sports has very limited bus service. They sometimes will sometimes run buses there, like during the NFL Pro Bowl week. And I guess that's coming back because they just announced that NFL Pro Bowl is coming back to Orlando next January. And during that, they did have resort bus service running at least from the All-Stars. And I remember seeing a sign for at least one other resort. So they do run bus service, but there is no bus service. So yes, that would be another bus line to put in for a venue that only a handful of resort guests ever visit and is only included in the Platinum Plus annual pass. And this year I'm not carrying a Platinum Plus. I just have a Platinum Pass myself.
And the reason I had brought up the NFL is because I had gotten into a conversation, kind of wrote a little piece about it. And I had said, the NBA to the average Disney, so when you look at the fan bases, I look at it this way: is NBA is like Maelstrom. Okay, you have a good amount of people who like it. The NFL is Frozen Ever After. There's a reason why they took away a ride that didn't have long lines, but had people flow through it all throughout the day to put in this monster that was going to have 6-hour waits. That was why I had brought up the whole NFL aspect.
But you look at the NFL and you go, okay, the NFL still has Monday Night Football on ESPN, but they have Sunday Night Football on NBC, and they have games on Fox and CBS.
Yeah.
And Disney owns one of those networks and doesn't own the others, and that could create problems with their licensing in a very broad scheme.
Well, because they own ESPN, so it would be ESPN Thursday night. And then they would own Fox, which is either going to be the 4:00 games or the.
It would get complicated.
It would get complicated because of CBS. That's what it would really come down to. That would be their biggest issue. And let it. But doesn't. But if you look at the NBA though, not all the games are on ESPN. Who else? TNT.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and actually, Disney does have a relationship, or has had a relationship for a while, with Turner through Turner Classic Movies. They were the last sponsor of the Great Movie Ride, and there's still a lot of Disney films that air on the Turner Classic Movies channel as part of that deal.
There you go. There's your reason right there.
Yeah, they don't
nailed it right on the head.
They don't own it, but they have a relationship with them.
Yeah,
so. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So did they give you a dollar amount of what it would cost for an adult to get in there?
Yeah, the tickets are $34 for adults, $29 for kids 3 to 9.
And is that for unlimited all day, or is there a time parameter on that?
There's no time, and you're free to do all the experiences as much as you want to during its operating hours. So you can keep getting back in line for the same ones over and over again. And the kids side of the attraction we didn't mention when we were talking about the things to do. When you were talking about replicating the Toronto Hockey
Sorry.
Museum, no, the analogy is that one set of the attractions replicates a Dave and Buster's type of atmosphere, where there's a setup of the sort of arcade basketball games you see, where you're throwing it through the smaller net and it's keeping track of your score. You just don't get any tickets for prizes.
Yeah.
And there's some novelty basketball opportunities. There's a slingshot basketball where the slingshot, you put the ball in the slingshot and the baskets are at different heights, and it's a time thing where you're trying to sink as many with the slingshot as you can. And then there's a whole section of video games. There's I forget if it was an Xbox platform or a PlayStation platform, but there's a bank of basketball related video games to play as well.
It sounds interesting. It's not my cup of tea. I will not spend the money to go see it, but that's also why I thought, hey, I'm going to talk to Alan because he was there. At least let people know what it's like, because I think that's one thing I was curious about. Other people might be curious about, and I do think there's probably a niche for this. I'm just not a part of that niche.
And the way I wrote about it in our update today is basketball fans and people who want to play the sport, absolutely, this is a must-see. People who have some interest in basketball or are open-minded and curious enough to see how WDI does an interactive experience in 2019 that's not in the parks, it might be. I mean, it's a close call at $34. I agree. But out west, we were talking before the show, they were charging $35 to go to an Instagrammable experience in the old ESPN Zone building at Downtown Disney in Anaheim. And I thought when I heard that originally that was a high number, until I researched a little bit more about these pop-up Instagrammable locations around the country. And as you know, Chris, I still watch WGN Morning News out of Chicago, and they happened to go to one in the same week I was thinking about this. So I looked up that one, and it was charging $35 in downtown Chicago to come to this building that had, rainbow unicorns and other things that people like to take their picture in front of. So in terms of pricing, it does approach that same sort of price point. And so if you want to see how WDI does stuff, they've done a lot of stuff in this venue, custom for the venue, using modern technology. For a theme park fan who comes to theme parks for the rides and only the rides, there isn't anything here if you don't like basketball. If you are a Disney fan who's into immersive storytelling but hates sports, then the storytelling that they're doing here isn't going to be for you, because they're doing Disney storytelling. And unfortunately, two of the attractions here are films as well. I didn't get an opportunity to see them during the cast preview. After we'd spent 2 hours playing basketball, we didn't feel like sitting through the films. And during the open media hours we had after the grand opening the other day, we didn't, they weren't running the films. But one of the films is produced by ESPN, and it's supposed to be Disney hasn't used the term, but it sounded like the typical emotional tearjerker that you sometimes see on ESPN. The other one was created by WDI, which was interesting to me. I didn't know WDI was in the business of making even a short videos in a storytelling context that wasn't somehow directly attached to like the Millennium Falcon. And even that, I suppose, was probably done more by the folks at Lucasfilm and ILM than in-house at WDI.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And I think I like how you sum that up, in the sense of just, I think it gives a lot of people, ideas on what they want to do. We have several people in our audience that are thinking that, yes, this is going to be a must do for me. Some people are like, I just may go ahead and give it a try. A lot of people are saying, no, it's not for me. I'm not a basketball fan. And I think we finally found something that we can universally say it's not for everybody. And
well, and to that point, last gosh, was it in the fall? I don't know. The months run together in Florida much more than they do in Chicago. But several months ago, I was invited by Disney to attend IAPA's conference here in Orlando for the keynote speech given by Bob Chapek. And the interesting thing that I learned out of that was Chapek seems to recognize that in the world in which we live today, where we have a podcast like yours or a website like the one I write for, there's a lot of niche programming. And when people come to Walt Disney World, some people are looking for things where the whole family does it together in the old-fashioned phrasing we use when we talk about why Walt created Disneyland in the first place.
Right.
But some people really do look to have individual experiences, which gives you, in the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge context, it gives you well, if you crash the Millennium Falcon, they're going to give you nonsense somewhere else in the park, and that your personal experience weighs on your day. And the NBA experience is furthering that with a very niche interest, right? The sports interest. And your experience is personalized. Your results are in that RFID card. And if you come back in the future, I was told that there is a way to compound your results further, although I haven't had the opportunity to explore it and haven't been to the place more than once on the same card, the way that they do, previews and admissions, so forth. And I don't know that I'll be back. Certainly won't be back with the card that I had the first time I went, and nor would I want to repeat those results. But I mean, it's that individual aspect that Chapek talked about it for IAPA and seems to be furthering with an experience like this as well.
Well, and I will admit, I liked Disney Quest, but like you said, it too was a niche. I think it was maybe a little bit broader of a niche, just in my 2 cents. And it probably lasted a little bit longer than it should have. But, it was one of those things where, like, my wife and my daughter would do something while my son and I would enjoy Disney Quest. And so, to me, that was a split family type of event where, half of us did one thing, half of us did another. My son and I really enjoyed it. And my wife and daughter, they go to the spa because that's their niche. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I can't say that Disney Quest had a wider span of, reach, so to speak. Although I can say from personal experience and people that I know that it was a very strong draw for a lot of locals.
Well, and Disney Quest was closer to a virtual version or a digital version, if you can call it that, from the late 90s, early 2000s of the theme parks themselves, right? So their type of storytelling was, at least in some ways, a little bit closer to theme park storytelling. And Universal sometimes feels to me like it's run with that ball, where they have lots of screen entertainment in their parks as the attractions themselves. But the reality of Disney Quest was so much closer to theme parks that, you could see that being of broader interest to Walt Disney World guests. But, how that contrasts today is, like I said, it's a little bit beyond what I can figure out at the moment.
Well, Alan, I know that your time is limited tonight. We just wanted to say thanks a lot for joining us with this. Why don't you go ahead and let people know where they can find you within the social media realm?
Sure. Well, the main place is MousePlanet.com. Every Tuesday, I'm principally the author of the Walt Disney World Report, our weekly report, which sums up all the news that Disney has released in the prior week and anything else we learn. We're not a rumor site, we're a news site. So you won't find the rumors on our site. Unfortunately for people who are hunting for rumors, we will shoot down rumors when Disney shoots down rumors. We enjoyed that a few months ago when they were shooting down those rumors. But you can find us on MousePlanet.com. Tuesday's our Walt Disney World update. Monday is the Disneyland update written by my boss, the CEO, Adrian Vincent Phoenix. We have other articles on the other weekdays of the week. Sometimes all that schedule gets shifted if Monday's a holiday or we have other issues, but that's generally the schedule. We have Instagram, I've mentioned before, MousePlanet on Instagram, MousePlanet on Twitter, MousePlanet on Facebook. And for those MousePlanet followers, we've agreed to simulcast today. So hello, MousePlanet followers looking at us today on Facebook, on the MousePlanet Facebook page. And we appreciate you guys doing that as well.
Sounds like a plan. Alan, or Danny, do you have any final questions? I do apologize. I didn't even ask.
So what do you mean Coco's not taking over Haunted Mansion? I read wrong on the internet.
Well, it's funny. I actually was at Coronado Springs again this weekend. The new Gran Destino Tower, the was a 16-story tower that opened last month, and we got to go to the media event for that. I went over to meet some friends there for dinner the other night, and they now have a couple of Coco art-related projects that you can do over in their lobby that I hadn't heard about or seen advertised before. But no, as far as I've last heard, there are no changes of any note like that. You know, the latest change at Haunted Mansion here, and it was rumored forever, and it was one of those true rumors, was that it was getting PhotoPass. And we now have PhotoPass for folks wearing magic bands on Haunted Mansion. Although I was on with a friend the other day and it didn't work. Quite often those photos just never show up in your account. But it does have PhotoPass some of the time.
I can't believe I was lied to this whole time. You kidding me? No, but really, we do appreciate you taking some time out, and your insight was wonderful. And like, you know, one of the comments here says, a little birdie told me you guys do an awesome job, and he's talking about you. And I'm not going to say Chris is the little birdie, but Chris might be the big canary. No, well, we always push people your way. You guys, we get a lot of our information from you guys. You guys, everybody over there at MousePlanet does a bang up job.
Great. And we'll be at Expo. We'll be at Disney D23 in Anaheim the 23rd, 4th, and 5th. And still waiting to hear what media credentials have been approved, but I've gotten my media credential approved for the Expo itself. And I'm looking forward to being out there. And I'm looking forward. It's, you know, we're only going to talk the once or twice here about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. I've gotten to go to a cast preview here. Adrian, my CEO, calls it Batu 2. And I'll get to compare it to Batu 1 when I'm out there at the end of the month.
Well, we can't wait to hear more about it and read all about it. We do appreciate it, and you have a wonderful evening.
Great, thanks guys.
Thanks, Alan. We'll talk to you soon, bro.
All right, so I'm going to settle something in the comments section, right? Because I don't understand where all of you are watching from, because we're having some technical difficulties on our side, and I commented, but for some reason the comment's not showing up with everybody else's comments.
I don't know what's going on, but we're still.
So you got to understand, basketball is a very big sport. Okay. No one is debating whether basketball is a big sport. Hockey is much bigger. Hockey is a national sport, where basketball, yes, is a worldwide sport like hockey, just not as big outside of the United States. Hence why when the Olympics comes around, America just runs the gauntlet. We could put our AAU basketball teams out there and they're going to beat the rest of the world. No one else can play basketball compared to we play basketball. So yes, hockey is bigger. Another comment that was said, why basketball instead of hockey? Hockey's never on ESPN. That's false. Hockey is on ESPN once a week. And also hockey is on a thing called TSN. You silly Americans don't know. No, TSN is ESPN outlet just based in Canada. So at the end of the day, whether you like football, you like basketball, you like hockey, heck, if you like cricket, Disney decided to go with basketball. And like me and Alan discussed, you kind of saw why, you know, not doing the dollars and pennies and peanuts and all that, figuring out what exactly happened. There's a direct correlation with TNT and ESPN and the affiliation they have with each other and the easiness of working this whole deal out. And if you don't like basketball, you don't have to do it. Listen, if me and Lindsay are there on a trip, we're not going to go do this. She has no interest in basketball. I haven't really watched basketball since I was a kid. I don't even call myself a Brooklyn Nets fan, because when they left New Jersey to go to Brooklyn, I stopped watching basketball. So my basketball days ended in 2005 with Jason Kidd and, you know, Jefferson going to the finals 2 years. I would do it by myself because I think it would be cool. I love curling, by the way. You know what I got into? Chris, you ever get bored at night, like 2 a.m? Turn on ESPN, watch women's softball. When I tell you it is the most exhilarating thing in the world, these chicks are awesome. That or college women's volleyball.
Oh my gosh,
they've got some skill, these girls.
Listen, I will say this. It sounds weird that you mentioned this. First of all, we're totally, if you want to know the idea of an unscripted show, here you go. But I know exactly what you're talking about, because it's like, you know, it's on ESPN 8, the Ocho or something like that. And seriously, I would not want to get in the way of one of those pitched softballs over on the women's softball, because I think it would hurt badly. And like you just mentioned, what was the other one? You said softball and
Volleyball.
oh my gosh, I couldn't survive a spike for one of those.
Ooh, I watched a video today. This girl was a savage. They had a dope rally back and forth, and this chick was in the back line, so she was in the service.
Woman, don't call them chicks.
She's a chick. I'm a dude. That's not a derogatory term. I apologize to all the chicks out there. Nah, just doing nothing. Just got mad. Listen, there's a couple other names that I normally would throw out that I won't. I can hear Lindsay yelling them up the stairs. No, so this girl, this young lady, this human athlete, I'm going to call her the robot. She's in the back serve line. She dove head first and like sideswiped the ball, literally this far off the ground, went up and over net into the back corner, hit the line. What? I literally watched the video like 15 times today on my lunch break because it was just that amazing. I don't know why Alex is saying pizza, Rizzo pizza, but Little League World Series. That is very interesting. But
Little League Softball World Series.
Ooh. I've never seen the softball. I've only watched the little boys. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Because they work so hard.
They do, and there's a lot of steps to get to even be on the TV to be playing in that. And boy, oh boy, when they lose, I'm like, oh. Like, and you know what the worst is? You get blown out. You get blown out, whatever. You weren't in it after the third inning. You know, you have a little bit of time to deal with it. When you lose on like the last pitch, you're like,
yeah. It's like 14 all, bottom of the ninth, last pitch. You know,
yeah.
And it's usually very, very tight. Yeah, I mean, it's that, and of course, well, a year from now, we're gonna have the summer Olympics come up. And it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that goes.
Chris brings up a good point, though. For $130 for a family of 4, that seems like a lot. But look at it this way, Chris. If your kids can get, say you're an average basketball fan, your kids play basketball, you and your wife, they'll pop on a game if it's a good game. You know, nothing crazy. $130 for a few hours, and then you can go out to eat while you're down there. I mean, think about it. You're going to spend that at Splitsville to go bowling.
You know, that's actually not a bad analogy.
So, I mean,
Splitville's not cheap, and if everybody's doing at least 2 games, you're getting very close to that same amount, plus shoe rental and all that other jazz you got to do for bowling.
It's crazy. I mean, and the food, I don't know what food they're going to serve. I don't even know. I should have asked. I don't know why that didn't come up to Alan. I don't know if they serve any food there, what it looks like, or what the cost is. But, it can get very tricky when you say like 130 is a lot, because when you look at Disney overall, I mean, think about the money your family would save from not going to the park that day. Think about it. For $130, if you got 4 or 5 hours, you go grab a bite to eat, and maybe you did the pool in the morning. That's a full day. I mean, think about what it would cost you to get into the park that day.
Hey, listen, I mean, there are some movies that you can go to that's going to cost you nearly $100 to get in with, between a movie and popcorn and stuff like that. I mean, if you think about it, and that's for 2.5 hours of movies plus previews and things like that. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is that for people who really like basketball, it could very well be a nice event. And I could see that. I don't know if they're going to end up having like some sort of annual pass or anything for it, but I could see locals that really get into basketball who want to try to, and they'll actually use it as a training center if you think about it.
I mean, when it's going to, when it'll boom in the beginning, and then I think it'll always boom when like basketball playoffs, basketball championship rolls around. I think you'll see some heavier days, maybe if the parks are crowded or if it's rainy out. I know I'm giving a lot of analogies, but here's the one where you're going to see it the most: when Groupon gets involved, if they ever get involved, which they might. I mean, Groupon, with the balloon out there is a big Groupon thing. I think if Groupon can get you discounted tickets, or if your annual pass gets you a discount, I think that's when you'll really see the foot traffic really go in there.
I don't think, again, me and you, we're not the right demographic for it. We're not that kind of fan. I still think, and I'll still say this, I still think they should have done a sports experience, but also have different sports possibly rotating in with the seasons and this, that, and the other. I would have loved to have seen something with, baseball, NASCAR, bowling.
Oh, not NASCAR, no.
Well, again, it's different. It's not like I'm a huge NASCAR fan, but I'll watch NASCAR before I'll watch basketball.
Oof.
Are you really not? You're really anti NASCAR, aren't you?
Yeah. I've got a few stereotypes I could throw out, but I don't want to hurt my demographic. I'm on a roll now. Let me go.
It's like, well, every time I think NASCAR, it's like, okay, seriously, when you think NASCAR, do you still think about that one opening scene in movie Cars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm Lightning McQueen's biggest fan. Gotcha. Oh, here you go, Christopher. Christopher says it right. Or what's worse, golf.
Hey.
Almost had him there, Christopher.
I was not paying. I'm going to be very honest. I was reading something. And I was not paying. You leave golf alone. All right. I play every weekend. Lindsay hates that I play golf every weekend. One of the biggest reasons why I want to move down south is so I could play golf 12 months out of the year, not 4. Oh, I'm one of those lunatic. If it's raining, I don't care. I go. I have no problem. If it's cold out, I'll play. I played 4 years of high school. I played a year in college. I love golf.
Have you ever played any of the courses at Disney?
Yeah. I played
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I tried to get my pro card when I was 21. I'm actually very good at golf.
Well, do you watch Holy Moly on TV?
No.
It's on top.
No, but I do watch real golf. Almost every tournament that's nationally televised. Me and Lindsay's dad watch a lot of golf. When I'm at work, I listen to it if it's in the morning. You know what I?
How do you listen to golf and now he's going to go for the putt.
Surprisingly, okay, so that's how it is on TV. Surprisingly, the radio is much louder.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe it's where they're located compared to, because the TV people are right up on top of these golfers, usually in like a bird's nest. Maybe radio's push back a little bit. You know what I saw on TV the other day? They had a miniature golf tournament on TV to win like $10,000, and I was like, I gotta do this.
Wait, and it wasn't Holy Moly?
I don't know what Holy Moly is.
Holy Moly is a TV program. It's basically a championship mini golf.
Is it newer?
Yeah.
Okay, then yes, exactly. Then that's what it was. Then
you got to win the golden putter and the plaid green jacket.
Yeah. Okay, I have watched Holy Moly. Then.
Holy Moly! Oh my gosh! Yeah, it's actually become quite the hilarity in our household is to watch Holy Moly on TV. I think, you do something like that. That would, seriously, that would have been epic to have a floor dedicated to like extreme putt.
That's how a lot of people get hurt. I'm going through these comments. I love no. Hey, Danny, don't knock it till you experience it. Crazy. I went to Dover Downs twice. I have experienced it. I just get bored of, they're making a left.
They're making a left turn. They're making another.
Now, I will say, I've watched the Grand Prix with the Formula One cars. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Like the real fast ones where they're like sitting outside of it when they make all the turns. That is awesome.
Yes, I will.
Those dudes are great, but I always wonder how they don't eat a lot of bugs or like their visor doesn't get covered with bugs.
Rain-X.
Oh, okay, because they're going so fast.
I will say I'm not usually an open wheel type of fan, but I will say it's actually really there's a high level of awesomeness to do what they do as a sport. Seriously, you can make first off, you got the physics of the vehicle itself, and then you got to try to overcome different things with that. It's like you could really have some interesting stuff with that.
And Chris, you can play golf all year long. You just have to know how to do it. There's you're not playing golf in August in Florida at 1:00 in the afternoon. You're not doing it. You're gonna die.
We actually play. There's people that play golf here in the wintertime in the snow.
We they don't allow us to play on the snow. They used to. They don't allow it. It became like a safety issue. I don't really understand why, but we used to play in the snow all the time. But our courses will stay open. It doesn't matter if it's 5 degrees outside. There will be people out there, and I will be one of those crazy people.
Do you ever golf at night with a glow-in-the-dark ball?
I did it once in Myrtle Beach, and I have bad eyes as it is.
So you just lost too many balls.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know where I'm going. Like I'm driving, like, and they wouldn't let you take the golf cart out because they didn't have lights on it. So you're walking. I'm like tripping over things. I'm like, this is terrible.
This is a bad idea.
It's Florida is getting rid of golf courses in Central Florida. Are you sure? Because one just opened in Central Florida. Are you saying the state of Florida is closing golf courses, or are the golf courses just going out of business? That's very different, because nowadays golf courses go out of business because of the land. It's more profitable for them to sell the land because people put up complexes on them. Like, for example, completely off topic, but that's what this
like most of this part has been completely.
Sorry, I'm just rambling. All right. So there was we had a family friend that used to own a funeral home in North Jersey. Funeral home was old. It's from like the 50s. Never really updated. It sold for $5 million. And we're like, who would pay $5 million for this funeral home? They knocked it down and they put a high rise on it. That's what I'm saying about golf courses. That's where the point was correlating is, yeah, you might make hundreds of $1,000s on your golf course. But if someone walks up and offers you a few million so then they can build something, most people just sell. It's all about land nowadays, especially Central Florida. It's so built up.
Very true. That's actually a very big statement, and I would understand that too. But
a golf lesson with Danny might have to be auctioned off. If you come to me, I'll do it. The problem is not many people live by me. A lot of our fan base. I mean, we have the 3 major states in our fan base is Indianapolis, Indy, New Jersey, and Florida. But those are all very large states, and I'm not traveling to you. I'm very honest.
I've always wanted to actually do a round of golf, but the problem of it is I suck at golf so bad. It's like someone asked me, "Hey, what's your best score?" I said my best score is probably 93.
Just finishing.
And they're like, "It's not that bad. 93 is not that bad." Oh, I said, "But wait, that's 9 holes."
Oh,
it's like hitting a ball with a crooked stick and then chasing after it. I will tell you, I'm the only person I know of that I can sit or I can stand virtually like 10 feet to the right of somebody that was teeing off and have that person hit the ball and have it slice so bad it hits me in the leg. Yeah. I just shouldn't be golfing.
I've known people to hit the ball backwards. I saw a girl one time hit the ball, and I said girl this time, notice that. I saw a young lady that one time hit the ball twice. She swung forward, hit the ball popped up straight in the air, and as her club came back around, hit the club again. I witnessed this with my own 2 eyes.
See, now that's the thing. It's like, it's like I would love to see something like that at a Disney resort because you're like, that's magic.
I know there was the one golf course we followed an alligator around for most of the day.
See, I don't see it. Nowadays. I think people would totally panic over that, with all due respect. But I think if that was me, I'd be like, as long as he doesn't eat my ball.
No, I mean, there was one ball that got real close to him, and I was like, ain't about that life. He can have that ball. I've got a bunch of it in my bag. But most of the time, like, you could drive right next to them. Like, you know what it is? Like, just, you never notice how, like, the squirrels in Disney, like, don't freak out when you go by them.
Yeah.
They're just used to the traffic. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm sure maybe if that gator was in the middle of a bayou somewhere and you're just kind of floating on a tube, he might want to eat you. A little bit different. He doesn't have a lot of human interaction.
I could see that. I mean, okay. But I think maybe not this trip. Maybe if we do a big meet and greet in 2020, maybe we should have a putt-putt golf tournament.
Ooh. The only
Team
problem with this, it's
Chris.
expensive.
I didn't say it was cheap, but the thing is, hey, it'd be a lot cheaper to do that than try to do like an actual game of golf, because then.
Oh no! You can't do a real game. You know what it is? No one would want to do it. There's a handful. I played golf one time with some of the guys that are part of the Diz Dads, and even that, like, people get very used to what they want to spend at home, and they get to Disney, and I guess they kind of forget that, like, hey, it's this. They're not ridiculous. I mean, I've paid more for golf in the state of New Jersey than I have at Disney.
About how much? I mean, just out of curiosity. For golf.
I want to say, because I mean, unless you bring your own clubs, which most people don't, like, I'm not paying to ship my clubs and the risk of them breaking, because my set's like $2,000. I'm not risking to send my clubs down there for one round. Now, if I was going down for a week, like say me and Lindsay were going down, we were staying at like a condo or something, and she was going to go to the beach, and I can maybe get 3, 4, 5 rounds in a week, then it'd be worth it. But I think I paid like $120 for the round, the clubs, and the cart.
Oh,
that's really not thinking about it, because think about it. I pay $50 every Saturday.
Okay. That's not, I mean, it's not that bad.
You got to think about it. We're talking about $70 more. You're getting clubs and you're playing at Disney.
Yeah, I can see that.
So
I mean, it was fun when I worked for a country club, so every Monday when the members weren't around, we got to go play golf.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Again, though, it was one of those cases where I know then just from that I will never golf at Disney, even though I'd love to try it, but I know I would just make so many people mad.
If you ever really wanted to just see what the golf courses look like, it used to be free. I have a feeling I talked to somebody and they said it was about $20. You pay to be a ride along. Oh. You don't play, but you can sit in the cart while I play.
I could be your caddy.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, I think the reason why they charge people now is because I think people were going out there like waiting till they got the whole 3 when they were away from the clubhouse, and then they were sharing their clubs and playing. And usually if that's happening, the second person's probably not very good at golf. Disney is very big sticklers with that, though, and I'm glad they are.
Yeah,
like you have to follow, picking up your ball marks in the green, sanding anything you mess up with. Like, not to say they come around and beat you with a stick if you don't, but be courteous, because I mean, it is, I mean, they used to have a PGA Tour down there. They used to have I mean, they don't have it had in years down there, but
yeah, I know that. And I got a comment what Stan says. He goes, "Oh, Chris, don't lie. All you did was race the golf course." Stan, I have one thing to say about that. It wasn't the only thing we did. It wasn't the only thing we did. So yeah. So okay, well, I think on that note, wrong button, Chris. Oh man, I think on that note, we've talked so much about sports. I think we're done. What do you think?
Take us away.
You heard the show, and we hope you want more. Well, feel free to join us over at our social media platforms. Instagram and our Facebook page can be found at Behind the Ears Podcast. Our webpage is behindtheearspodcast.net, and our email is behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @BehindTheEarsPC. And come and join the conversation about all things Disney over at the WDW community page. Don't forget to rate and review the show over at iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it really helps us get the word out about the show. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or the Podbean app. Also, you can listen to us on Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and via Alexa and Google Herd.
With that being said, thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Ears Podcast. Once again, we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and or YouTube. And you can follow us on all our social media platforms. If you have any questions, please email us at behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. And Trisha would kill me if I didn't mention it. Please join the WDW community Facebook page. With that being said, everybody, we hope that you enjoyed Alan from MousePlanet coming on and talking about the NBA experience and hearing me rant why hockey and golf is better for about 25 minutes. Let's be real. With that being said, make sure you shine your clubs, you tie your shoes, you hit the ball straight. I am Uncle Danny. Until Thursday.
I'm Mr. Chris, and I guarantee you one of these days I'm going to get a picture of Danny wearing some silly golf knickers. But that's for another show. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us. We really super appreciate it. And by all means, until we talk to you again on Thursday, we hope you have an absolutely magical day. Take care.